How would you describe how happy you are with your life? Are you happy all the time? Some of the time? Most of the time? Or you can't remember the last time you were happy? Maybe it's one of those ever-changing combinations, sad in the morning, mad in the afternoon, happy in the evening, but then you wake up crying a river in the middle of the night. I don't know anyone that can answer that question definitively every single day. I mean, I consider myself generally happy about most things. I may get sad or mad about something, but the things that I'm sad or mad about often seem to dominate how I'm feeling. I'm sure you know what I mean. That 10 or 20 pounds you just can't shake off no matter how much exercise you put into it. And how that makes you feel like an utter failure, despite the fact that you're raising gracious, healthy, lovely kids and have an adoring, supportive partner or spouse. Or perhaps it's the crazy maker colleague at work that is undermining every effort and stealing your thunder. The person that makes your 9 to 5 absolutely miserable, even though you love what you do and you know you're an asset at your company. Yeah, I think we're happy, but it seems like we're always contending with a giant swirl of emotions that's difficult to understand and manage somehow. It seems like I stumbled upon The 9 Rooms of Happiness by Lucy Danziger and Dr. Catherine Burndoff, but I'm beginning to think that the universe was doing its thing again, conspiring on my behalf. I started to read this book and I couldn't put it down. No wonder the lady at the bookstore said that it was a must-read for all women. Seriously, it felt like Lucy and Catherine had snuck a peek into my personal journal or something. How they had figured out how to put into perspective what I know I and every woman out there feels, and into such clear perspective, is amazing. So off to New York City we went. I'm about to go meet the co-author of 9 Rooms of Happiness, Lucy Danziger, at the Self Magazine headquarters. I'm so excited. Let's go! By the way, Lucy is also the award-winning editor-in-chief of Self Magazine, with a global audience of more than 6 million in print and 3 million online. She's also, and I bow down to this woman, a competitive Ironman triathlete that has helped others accomplish their triathlon training goals. She helped J-Lo, yes, Jennifer Lopez, compete in her first triathlon. Beat that.
I wrote it with a co-author who is a psychiatrist named Catherine Burndoff, and she started her practice listening to women and the stories of women. And so when we got together, she was hired by Self Magazine, where I'm the editor, and she started writing a happiness Q&A column, really hearing what women think about in their emotional being.
Yes.
And one of the things that we realized is that sometimes we need somebody to kind of have affirmation that what's bothering us is valid.
Yes.
So for me, I've always had body image issues. I sometimes don't like it when I gain weight and feel heavy and I want to feel athletic and light. And that can really bring me down. And I said to her, you know, I feel so sort of spoiled because I have all these blessings. I have this lovely life, this wonderful job, this amazing family. And yet, if I feel a little bit heavy, it can bring me down.
Yeah.
And I said, do all women have these issues, these things that really shouldn't be bringing them down, but do on a daily basis? And she said, yes. In her practice, where she listens to women all day long, it's the little things that bring you down.
Absolutely.
It can be a fight with a sibling. It can be a bad day at the office. It can literally be, you know, a bad hair day or a bad body image day. It can be a husband that isn't listening. It can be being tired and feeling overwhelmed by the household chores. And so we decided to write a book to help women with what we consider the little problems that present themselves as big problems if they steal your happiness. So having this co-author was really helpful to me. And honestly, I'm in the book the kind of flawed every woman, and she is the more wise doctor who can help us learn and sort of evolve. And together we really came up with a lot of these solutions, because she doesn't have a lot of the hang-ups I have, but a lot of the hang-ups I have, a lot of women have.
Yeah.
Who can't relate to that? Small, sometimes insignificant issues that present themselves as these huge problems. The survey I conducted drove this point home for me. Every single one of the women that I heard from had an issue that seemed to color their perspective on everything else in their lives.
And so we wrote this book because we decided that women can relate to rooms of a house, that image, that metaphor, that we all live in this interior emotional house. And one of the things we like to acknowledge is that we don't live in 9-room houses, and most of our readers live in like a 1-bedroom apartment in New York
City.
City.
I was just thinking about that.
Right,
I just have one room.
Right, this is not for literally people who live in huge houses. But it's really that we all have this inner landscape that's very, very rich. We have a bedroom because we have romance and love and intimacy. We have a bathroom because that's body image and well-being and taking care of yourself. And we can have a kid's room, whether or not you have kids, want to have kids, don't want to have kids. You have to make that decision. And then if you're having kids like I did, there can be a lot of conflict there. You know, I like to say in the kids' room, nothing you do is right because your kids are always there to, give you a hard time.
Right.
So in the office, whether you work in the house or out of the house, you have the work that you do that, can give you great joy or reward, or it can just exhaust you and deplete you. So the office is about money and about work and about the purpose of the work that you do.
Yes.
So each one of us has these rooms, and it's funny because in the family room, that's where you deal with nearest and dearest. And the family room is where you fight over the TV remote, where you can take your shoes off and be badly behaved and yell at each other, but you still have to love each other.
Yeah.
So the family room can be like, for me, it's my brother who can really get at me with like one stupid comment, and then I can really like sort of ruminate about that for days or be mad at him for days. Or it can be your grown mom, you're grown up, but you still have this relationship with your parents, right?
Sure.
So the family room where your nearest and dearest really can grate at you, even though you love them, right? So, and especially because you love them.
Every one of us gets stuck in one or several of these emotional rooms. Some are awesome to be in, but others suck the energy and life out of you. And since we're in and out of these rooms on a daily, very regular basis, sometimes multiple times a day, how in the world are we to maintain our peace and our joy? How do we stay focused on the things that truly matter?
So we decided that in each room you need strategies you can decide to clean up the mess there, or close the door, walk away, and come back later. And just that is really empowering.
So let me just tell you what I absolutely love about the book, what you just said. It is entertaining, it's really funny.
Good.
It's self-deprecating and just there's a self-realization process that happens as you're reading the book,
Right.
but it's also very practical.
But in some ways, we wanted a practical, helpful book that gave solutions or at least strategies for those solutions.
So let me just pull out one of them that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
In your section where you talk about processes, you
Right.
say, know your limits. Be strong to help others.
Right.
So let me just tell you, this is something I think a lot of women struggle with.
We want to be
Giving,
superwoman.
giving, and yes, not only do you want to be, but it seems like the world thinks you are and
Right.
expects you to be superwoman.
Right. The expectation is that women can do it all and look fabulous doing it. You and I have to have this multifaceted day, and yet we want to show up and look our best,
Sure.
right? And we put that pressure on ourselves. I mean, if I hadn't gotten my hair done this morning, nobody would care but me, but I would hate it, right? So we have this self-expectation that is so high. And a lot of it is this idea of balance. When we say, balance is a beam you walk in grade school. Like, you have to allow yourself a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And so we like to say to women, don't wait till you're so exhausted or so at the end of your rope that you're like losing your temper or you lose your sense of self in the equation. So knowing your limits is just being able to say no and taking care of yourself. A lot of women put the house, the car, the job, the family ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
And at Self Magazine and in this book, we say, know your limits means you can say no and take care of yourself, put yourself at the top of your to-do list, and just sort of lower everybody else's expectations, lower your own expectations about what you're going to get done. So be strong to help others. We say isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. So part of this book gives women permission to take care of themselves, right? And knowing that you can close the door on a problem and go live the life you want to live at this moment.
I love that. Knowing your limits isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. Let me say that again. It's okay if everything isn't perfect all the time. It's okay if I'm not able to cook a gourmet meal for my family every single day and we eat takeout or breakfast food for dinner once in a while. It's okay if the house is a little messy when I get home in the evening and I choose to leave it that way so I can play soccer with my son for just a few minutes, or maybe take my little girl for a walk at the park before it gets dark. It's okay to allow myself to be happy. Something happened to me when I turned 30. It was the beginning of several defining moments in my life. No longer could I ignore the questions that were burning on the inside of me. Why am I here? What's my real purpose in life? What completes me? What brings me joy? How can I be the very best that I know that I can be? And then there's those defining moments like the birth of a child, or the tragic loss of a loved one, or an encounter with the realization of your own mortality that force you to face those questions head on. According to Lucy and Catherine, in those defining moments, the 10th room offers this safe haven that I think we need. It allows us to think about what matters the most.
My favorite two chapters of the book are the 10th room and the epilogue. And the 10th room is this metaphorical space. It doesn't even have to be a room. Some people think when they're at the car, the wheel of the car driving. I like to think when I'm jogging. So the 10th room is wherever you go to think about the big picture. And you've shut out the other 9 rooms. So there can be some messes, some nice clean rooms, whatever. Maybe you're getting along with your honey, maybe you're not. But you shut the door on the bedroom and the bathroom and the kitchen where the chores are and all these other rooms, and you just go and you think about your life, right? And so in yoga, there's that last corpse pose, that savasana, where you have to have this rebirth and you come back into the world thinking about, like, what is it about me that I want to do more of, or what do I love, what are my joys and my passions? So that 10th room is where you really go and think those thoughts. What brings me joy? Some people say, well, I don't know what my meaning is, and I don't have a clue. And there are hints along the way in your day. Like, what is it that really brought you joy, made you smile, made you happy? For some people, it means they have to rejigger their job life. They might have to quit a very high-paying job and take a lesser-paying job. But then the trade-off is, okay, so you buy fewer shoes, you take cheaper vacations, maybe you live in a less swanky place, but
you're healthy.
You're happy, right? You want to be happy. But if the opposite is true, maybe what makes you happy is traveling and taking those vacations. How do you fit more of that into your life? So think about what makes you happy and how to do more of it. And then that leads to the passion and the meaning that you can find. And the epilogue is, we talk about Edith Wharton's wonderful
and it's
story.
funny, it's like you're reading my mind, because I was just about to go to that quote.
Well, there's this great quote at the beginning of the book about a woman's inner life is like a great house full of rooms, right? And the outside rooms, like the parlor where you have guests, is where expectations and social niceties exist. And then you go into a slightly more intimate space, like a bedroom, and that's where you hopefully find your soulmate. But if you don't find your soulmate, you can complete your own life, right? Even if you find the man of your dreams, you need to be a whole person.
Absolutely.
He needs to be a whole person. You come together and we talk about that Venn diagram.
Yes.
You don't complete each other, you really hold people who overlap.
Yeah.
So then you go to this inner sanctum where maybe nobody else exists except your inner self and your being and who you really want to be. That's what you think about in the 10th room. And then hopefully you try to realize those dreams in your life, right? And she talks about this wonderful story about this woman who goes into the afterlife and decides that she was happy with her husband even though he wasn't perfect. And what we're saying is, complete yourself and think about what it is at the end of your life that you're going to wish you'd done more of, and do more of that today. Like, figure out what that is when you're 30, not when you're 90, and hopefully you get to 90, right? And say, well, what is it that I want to do more of in my life? And that's really what leads you into this happier space.
Absolutely.
Today.
I did a survey of more than 50 women, some of whom are my close friends and are pretty successful by any measure. They're happy, single or happily married, living in their purpose, making good money, living the good life. And I asked them if they were entirely happy, and if not, what they were most concerned about, what kept them up at night. It was really eye-opening, interesting to learn about what these women were struggling with and how we are all dealing with the same issues. This constant struggle to maintain a certain body image, or feeling like you could never make enough money to fulfill life's demands. The challenges of parenting, issues with romance, your emotional well-being. So many of my conversations broke my heart, and I'd love to share just one example with you. I love what I do. I work with an organization that makes a difference for people all over the world. My job is amazing. I love my team, and I love the rewarding feeling that I have when we help one person or help hundreds. I cannot describe the joy this brings to my heart. Unfortunately, while my immediate family are very supportive, some of my extended family question my priorities and commitment. They're constantly challenging the hard work and effort that I put into my career. In their minds, it doesn't make sense that I should work as hard as I do, make all the money, and not have children to enjoy it with. Their perception of my success is that I have my priorities wrong. So here is a woman making a difference for individuals all over the world. And she has to second guess her efforts and her contributions because the people around her, the people that she relies on for support, the people who love her the most, do not necessarily understand and are questioning her commitment level. Why should she have to apologize for her success? What if she decided that she didn't want any children? What's so wrong with that? This is a challenge as women that we deal with all the time, having to live up to other people's expectations. And I love the fact that this book tackles even that.
So you dedicated this book, and let me just quote, because I love how you quoted it, to all those who help you realize how happy you are. How happy is that, and who are these amazing people?
Well, you know, you're funny to pick up on that. No one else has picked up on that quote, ever. And it's so interesting, because I think that those are the people who I would thank for just making me feel like me. I get choked up. It's my husband, my kids, my family, the staff who I love coming to work with every day. It's the people who remind me, oh my God, I'm so lucky. How do I forget that? How do I sometimes forget to feel lucky and blessed and grateful? And how happy you are is your own definition. You know, my co-author likes to say it's contentment. She doesn't need to be giddy or, you know, smiling silly smiles all the time. She just needs to remember to be content. For me, I need to remember to feel grateful because I have been given so much in life. Who am I to ask for more? I always say to my kids, you're not spoiled if you have a lot. You're spoiled if you don't appreciate what you have. Whatever that is. You know, to appreciate what you've got.
Do not appreciate what you have.
Right, and there are people who always want more.
Yeah.
I'm such a driven person that I can look in the mirror and find a flaw. Instead of looking in the mirror going, thank God I'm healthy today. I'm so lucky today. You know, to be able to go run and bike and swim and do all the things I love. To be grateful is really, to me, my definition of happiness. But that's individual.
The book puts our problems into perspective. It challenges us to rise above those issues and reminds us that in the instances where we can't change the issues, that we can certainly change the way we react to them. I love that.
I always think that most evolved people are those who get outside of themselves and think about what's the other person thinking? How can I be empathetic? I want to be more empathetic because I think that's cooler than being self-involved.
Of all the topics that were raised by my girlfriends that I surveyed, the number one issue was, well, there were a couple, but money, career, self-image and parenting.
Right.
Whether or not they should be parents, how to
Right.
deal with children.
It's huge.
Those 4 issues were their big issues.
Those are the big ones. I mean, money stress is big because obviously we've been in this horrible recession. A lot of people have not seen raises and jobs are tight. In terms of your own personal expectations and what you want to get out of life, that's a lifelong process. And I find that I'm constantly asked, how do you know he's the one? How do you know, you're going to be happy? And I always say, we use pop culture in this book. One of the great lines is when Carrie from Sex and the City says, I want to be with somebody who loves the version of me that I love. And that's really, you have to like yourself first, and then find somebody who likes that version of you. Because I've seen women change who they are for their man, the vegetarian goes hunting, or the, hunter goes vegetarian. You gotta be you first and foremost, and then find people around you who support that image of yourself. And that's really important. So that kind of can inform all of it. If you see yourself as wanting to be a mom, find a guy who wants to help you realize your dream of maybe working and being a mom, or maybe not working and being a mom. Whatever your image of yourself is, hold that as your number one goal, and then the rest of it really follows out from there.
I love that. Figure out what it is that you love about yourself, the most beautiful and perfect you. Figure out your truth and give it the high regard that it deserves by surrounding yourself with people that appreciate that person. That piece of advice alone is worth its weight in gold.
So I have a question for you as Lucy. How have you balanced? I mean, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an incredibly successful career
You're sweet to say that.
individual. You're doing things that impact the world. I mean, you're giving back.
You're nice to say that. Okay, so my answer to this, and I do get asked, how do you do it all? And I really say...
And still maintain happiness, and because I think something has to give somewhere.
That's true. Things have to give. Sometimes it's sleep. But I really do say I had to lower my standards. And what that really means is I'm okay with good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to understand that you can't meet everybody else's expectations. You have to decide what your priorities are. And so as a working mom, I've always taken the phone calls at 3:30 in the afternoon from my daughter, who always wants to tell me what happened in school that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd have to say to my team, sorry, I always take this phone call. And maybe they didn't like that. Somebody might not have kids in the room, and they're like, oh great, now I have to spend 10 minutes while she's doing this. But you know what? They know that when it's their time to get married and have babies, I'm going to be incredibly positive about their needs to get to a mommy and me class or whatever, coming at 10 a.m. instead of 9. I want people to know that self means having this life where you're true to yourself. So I have to be true to myself, whatever that means. And sometimes that means other people aren't seeing it the same way I do, but I'm okay with that. Right? Yeah. So you just have to be okay with whatever you choose is your priority, your value system. And you may not meet everybody else's expectation in that moment, but as long as you're true to yourself, that's all that matters.
If you could travel back in time to that woman in her late teens, early 20s, that you were then, given what you know now, what message would you deliver? What would you say to her?
I'd say like yourself. Don't waste time being hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Women are so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Try to like yourself the way you like your friends.
You are wonderful.
You're wonderful. Well,
Good
luck with this fabulous show.
To you.
Well, you're an inspiration because you've got this new reality, and I just think it's great what you've done.
I'm really excited. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I think that in some way, shape, or form, we're all chasing happiness and fulfillment and love and purpose. What's so powerful about this book is how the authors are able to frame these really interesting and meaningful concepts in a way that we understand what's going on internally and can actually do something about it. Not only can we all relate to the emotional rooms and identify with the issues that each space represents, we finally have some practical tools and ideas for how to navigate each space, how to be our best selves in each space. Pick up a copy today. The 9 Rooms of Happiness, Loving Yourself, Finding Your Purpose, and Getting Over Life's Little Imperfections. And keep it locked on MukamiTV, where your stories are inspiring, empowering, and transforming lives.